So we're going to continue our series about the Games Workshop paint line, the Citadel paint line, and today we're going to talk about the air range. So the air range, lots to be said about this. The air essentially is the color by Citadel made for the airbrush. So essentially this is airbrush-ready paint. Lots of brands also have this, and they're a little bit weird. And like many of the air like specialty paints, they come with like a long list of like pros and cons. Obviously, their main purpose is for you to airbrush with. So if you want to use Citadel like colors, but you also happen to have an airbrush, and you don't want to mix them for whatever reason, you can get these. That's kind of their general use. So they're trying to match color, right? You can see here I have Lead Belcher and Mephiston Red, and those are essentially two base color. They do most base colors, and they do some layer colors as well. Usually you get at least one like main color and then one highlight color. So essentially one base and one layer of every kind of tone, and then there's a couple more. So in the red, there's also corn red that you can use. So it's I wouldn't say like a complete lane, or like you don't get all of the colors in double. Like for example, like I think I don't know them by heart, so I might name one that exists. But let's say like something like Cyberite green or Cabalite green probably does not exist in the air variant just because it's so fringe or so specific. But they make a lot of the main colors. Now the obvious weakness is, first of all, Games Workshop never really used these because they're not like an airbrush centric company. Like Duncan never talks about the airbrush. Peachy or whoever is their current like paint person on their channel, they don't really talk about the airbrush. They don't manufacture an airbrush anymore. They did like 12 years ago or something. So it's really a weird range where it feels like they did it just to have one, but then they reduced it significantly. The last time that they updated their paint range, they cut like a lot of colors from the air range. So if you started doing your army in one of the colors that was like discontinued, you're kind of boned. So that's kind of the main issue with it. And then the second issue is the same as with a lot of other brands, is the colors are made to match, but they don't really match, and that's like a very common weakness for all of these. And so here, the two I got here are actually the only two I've ever used in the air range. And so the Lead Belcher is significantly different, where I use this Lead Belcher because it is less shiny than actual base Lead Belcher. So that one significantly different. So first, like most paints, you get a different result just because of the way that it's applied, right? So if you brush on, even if you use like your airbrush with this and a paintbrush with this, you're going to get slightly different color just because the way it's applied. Like an airbrush has like a really coarse finish, whereas your brush usually gets you a smoother finish. So that's the main issue with like discrepancy in the colors. But also sometimes they just don't match. And this one is a case of this one never matches. If you airbrush both of these, different colors, slightly, like not insanely different, but enough that you'll know. Like if you line up like 10 models and then like 3 are made with one and 7 are made with the other, you can spot which ones. And some of them are better. Like Mephiston Red is very, very, very close, where I think if it's applied in the same way, it's going to be pretty much the same. So some of them I like, some of them I don't like. And then the other thing is also the same criticism, I guess, that we can make about all the air products, which is when they're too thin, you're kind of boned because what are you going to do? And when they're too thick, well, you still need to thin them down. So what's the point of using air ready if they're not really ready? Which again, same thing. Some of them are really good, some of them are bad. Lead Belcher is one example that I really like. Air Lead Belcher for everything. I use it with a brush as well a lot of the times. I don't think it's like a big range that you need to explore, even if you are looking for airbrush ready colors, simply because every range almost has some of it, some variant for it, and some ranges are entirely airbrush ready. So that's kind of the main deal with the air paints. One thing to note though is that the pots are bigger, which is something that I enjoy because I paint like a lot of models, so I use a lot of paint. So I like the larger pots here. So yeah, that covers the air range. So I don't think it's a big winner, but I think it can be useful if you want to save a little bit of time. It ain't bad. It ain't great either though.